think this really ties into the next topic, which is Andrew Tate. SubhanAllah, when it comes to Islam and what it came to do, every single prophet came to their people. If you look at the surah titled "The Poets" in the Quran, towards the end, you see Allah mentions all these different prophets who went to their people and said, "Oh people, only worship Allah, and obey me." The prophet is saying, "Obey me." Why? Because we need to reform society and structure in a way that God wants. This is what Islam came to do. Submission. The whole state submits to Allah. The leader of the state submits to Allah. Every citizen submits to Allah and lives in the way that he wants human beings to live. This is what Islam came to do. Now, when Andrew Tate mentioned something, I guess along those lines, people really went against him for some reason. There are a few things he said on the podcast that I think were definitely wrong and need to be kind of talked about from an Islam perspective. But this was definitely not one of them. So he mentioned that Islam is practical, right? And people stand up for the religion. Islam is something basically that is practical for people in life. And that's something that he likes. And people are like, that's not all Islam is. It's not just practical. It's not just practical. But in our implementation of it, it is fully practical. So why would it be wrong for him to mention one of the by the way, Islam is basically the only religion that has this. Judaism has it, but then they lack the spiritual. And they have too much of it, if anything. That's why Jesus ﷺ came to make some of their laws easier for them, as instructed by Allah. Islam came to be practical. Islam came to say, you need to clean yourself like this. People make fun of Islam for this. Oh, it tells you how to clean yourself. You wish you knew how to clean yourself. People don't use water after they use the bathroom, man. You know how disgusting that is? Astaghfirullah. People need to be taught these things. It sucks, yeah, but people need to be taught. People need to be taught how to engage in business transactions so they don't wrong each other. People need to be taught that. People need a practical way of life. That's why Islam came, to stop the high elites from taking advantage of the lower, weaker people, to equalize the people as much as possible, to tell everyone that they're all potentially could be loved by God, no matter their race, no matter their upbringing, no matter their economic status, but by virtue of good deed and good religion.
Bro, just think about this for a second. You have a kid in school. They are being taught from this book about pride. Now, I'm not even going to say which one it is because I feel like everyone here already understands which one I'm talking about. Now, as these kids begin to grow up, do you think that they will be for or against? If they're being taught this in school and the parents are okay with it, their friends are okay with it, their class is okay with it, everyone around them is okay with it, please answer me the question. Do you think that they will be all right with it, or do you think they're going to be against it?
They're going to be okay with it. It's going to shape their reality. They wouldn't really know anything other than that.
If that doesn't scare you into actually looking at your own belief system and how you perceive things, I mean, I don't know what will.
And subhanAllah, I have so much respect for people who come to Islam after living in today's age, in today's world, in the Western societies, because you have one very specific way of life, and then you have Islam that counteracts that way in so many different points, on so many different levels, and people see that and people go with it, and people are okay with it because they realize Islam is the truth, and they want to submit to Allah. They want to believe in God. They want to practice the religion that God sent for humanity, even if it means giving up on the things that they were doing even just a month or 2 months or a year ago. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them immensely.
I mean, bro, do you want to get into that? Because many people would rather say that Islam seems like a very specific way of life. And outside of that, you can live however you want to.
I don't necessarily think that's wrong, but it defines specific. Like what makes something specific versus not specific.
I think the issue is people look at things outside of Islam as freedom and diverse and individualistic. But the issue is the status quo has already been set. So even outside of Islam, there's still things that they want you to feel, think, and operate with. So yes, it's like a facade of like choice and all that. But there really isn't, bro. Because we have this illusion of choice, but when you look at society and other ways of life aside from Islam, it almost predictates how you should think. And if you deviate from that, then you're no longer good or moral.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, look at Nick Merckx. As you can believe whatever you want, but as soon as you make a general tweet like "leave the kids out of it," you lose your entire Call of Duty collection, and sponsorships want to drop you, and it's this whole feud, and all these people who are against you. So you can't it's like you can believe what you want, but you're gonna be punished if you believe this, and that. So okay, you don't have the choice. And on top of that, imagine a society where it's complete anarchy. Anyone could do literally anything that they want or anything that they're physically capable of doing. Our society right now would be seen as strict because in their society, they can do literally anything. So since our society allows us to do basically anything to ourselves, well, now Islam, which is normal, by the way, it's the normacy, now that seems to be strict. Should people be absolutely free? If people are absolutely free, you have what liberalism was meant to be, which is anarchy. You have this anarchist liberalism, which is everyone's free to do anything they want, no government, no rules, pure anarchy. And maybe there are a few people, philosophers even, who wanted this initially. Then you have liberalism that brings police and governments and judges and authorities over the people, that the people allow for the sake of unity and some kind of protection. But it doesn't protect you from yourself. Government's not going to stop you in some countries from offing yourself. They're going to help you do that if that's what you want, if that's what you desire. It's not going to stop you from drinking or smoking or doing any of these things that harm your body. They're going to tell you, oh, it's bad, but they're going to let you do it. And at the end of the day, this society is breaking people. So why would it be good if you could choose to hurt yourself? That's stupid.
This is why I was saying that everything was programmed into us, and that these things or these people that are in control, they have their own agenda. They have what they are trying to herd the human sheep, and we don't even realize that we're being herded. And for someone who thinks that Islam is too strict and too rigid, I mean, just think about it. When you follow Islam, it allows you to purify yourself. It allows you to get in the best state mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and is not asking for any money, is not asking you to do anything that's harming any other person in this world. So you tell me, is it really that strict, or is it actually the thing that's meant for us if it's doing such good for us?
I want to go back to anarchy for a second, because when you look at liberalism and their way of life, it's on Britannica. You could look it up. I don't remember exactly what the name was, but he's a philosopher. I think Thomas Paine. He basically argued that governments are against liberalism, judges are against liberalism, police are against liberalism. The reason we have to have them is to ensure some kind of protection of the freedoms of the individual. So it's basically seen as what they would call a necessary evil, even in their fundamental basis, which the human being is born free to do basically whatever they want. Even in that basic, general, fundamental belief, they have to turn their backs on that and introduce some kind of dogma, some kind of strictness, some kind of authority over the people, because they know how stupid it is, how silly it is. The founding fathers of liberalism. Now, all these years later, we're living in it. We're in the melting pot of it. We're in the middle of the whole conundrum. And until you look back and see how this started and the trajectory is set everyone on and where we are in that trajectory and where we're heading, you're not going to understand anything. It's like the analogy Anhel always gives. If you're looking at a picture like this, you're going to see one pixel. You're not going to see the full picture until you back up. Sorry, back too far away from my mic. But you're not going to see the whole picture until you back up. So once you back up, see, where did we start? How did we get here? Where are we going? You can put two and two together and say, okay, well, that's pretty messed up. The whole reason we got here is because Christianity and the church oppressed people, and they got so mad about it. They're like, I want to be as free as possible. No one's going to hold me down. That's literally what started this whole chain of events and why people see religion as evil. Think about that for a second. That's the reason? Yeah, that's the reason. Historically, look into it.
This makes me think of before I became Muslim. I used to look at religion as a very bad thing. But the more that I started going into spirituality, and I say spirituality because I didn't want to refer spirituality as religion. I saw the things as two separate things. And I used to do the whole meditation thing, and like the more I did this, the more I purified myself. I felt better. I felt more in tune. I felt like I was living the way that I was supposed to be living. And it started to get me closer and closer to the truth. And it's not till later on, once I accepted Islam, once I became Muslim, that I was like, this whole belief pattern that I had before was a limiting belief pattern. And looking back, it was something that was instilled into me ever since I was a little kid.